once again at City Grow. I'm here with Channing, our customer service success agent. Welcome back, Channing.
Thanks. Good to be here.
We're excited to have Channing here. We're talking today all about campaign success and how to get the most campaign success. Campaigns are kind of the fundamental process of City Grow, really.
Yeah.
What we do here. Granted, we're not talking just specifically about City Grow, but just in general, if you're having email and text campaigns, how do we drive success? So let's just start high level right there. What does a successful campaign look like?
Sure. I mean, a successful campaign really kind of depends on your industry and all that kind of thing. So what you kind of define as success. But really, there's a couple things that you have to really look at, and one of them is definitely your ROI.
Okay.
Which
ROI stands for
return on investment.
All right.
And so, kind of simply put, for an ROI is really how much money you put into it and how much money you get out of it.
Okay.
Is something that you need to evaluate. But I think to kind of take a step back even farther, the way you define a successful campaign is you must be tracking your campaign. Because you can't really make an ROI, you can't really be able to see what's happening if you're actually not tracking it. If there's no numbers, there's no information about who's using it, all those kind of things, then it becomes very difficult for you to even begin to understand what's really going on.
Right. So to break down ROI real simple, if I understand right, is return on investment. If I invest $100 to send out a blast, let's say. Mm-hmm. Which would be a fairly large blast.
Sure.
You're at on average $25 per thousand. So let's say I'm sending out 4,000 blasts.
Yeah.
The return is how much money I make from that $100. So if $100 goes out, I bring $200 back. I just doubled my investment. That's my ROI.
Yes.
Cool. So tell me this: what are different ways to measure success? You mentioned like the redemptions and tracking that. Mm-hmm. Maybe go into detail on how do we measure the success of a campaign?
Sure. So one of the ways that you can measure is, we did talk about redemptions. You can actually have systems in place. CityGrow does one, and hopefully a system you're using has a place that can keep track of offers and redemptions and those kind of things. So you can be able to see how many people are using it, and then you can also give kind of an average profit of those interactions with customers as well. And if you actually don't have a system that is able to mark redemptions, see how many things are being used, you really should even use just a paper and pencil kind of a thing.
Last resort.
Right, last resort.
Write it down.
Exactly. But you can look at how many people redeem the offers. You can see how much money you spent on the marketing efforts of sending out that offer, and how much was gained by it. But those are typically pretty common things that you can easily see quickly, that can help you define those.
Okay, so to break this down, I get a text message on my phone. It says, "Come in for a BOGO, buy one get one free." I come in and I show the cashier, "Hey, look what I just got on my phone. Mm-hmm. I haven't clicked anything. I haven't done anything." How does that business know? Break that down real simple.
Absolutely.
For me.
So if you're using a system like CityGrow, you'll have a kiosk option where people can just actually select that offer on the kiosk.
Okay.
And the system will then keep track of that for you. If you're not using a system that has that ability, training for your employees is paramount.
They're gonna have to track it on their side.
Because they need to track themselves. So they're either maybe in your POS you have something that you set up that is that offer, so you can track it through your POS. But if you don't, it needs to be marked somewhere. Someone came in, we buy one, get one free kind of a thing, and marked somewhere.
Yeah, what we see a lot of, and this is where training becomes critical, because what we see a lot of is that scenario where they come in, they say, "Hey, I got this discount." The employee on the other side has a few options to add that discount. They could, let's say it was a $10 item, they got half off. They could just say $5 item, and then charge $5, which is still technically correct for the customer. Or they could say discount at half off, or they could actually, like you said, create a button that says, "For this campaign, use this half off button." Yeah. The trouble that we see a lot is if you're doing one of the first two methods, it's really hard to tie back to a certain campaign. Yeah. Unless you're doing it like only within the hour, so everyone that came in with that hour was from that campaign. Mm-hmm. You really want to try to tie it back to that campaign that it was sent to.
Yeah, definitely. Right? And the other thing too about the other way is there's a lot of room for human error.
Yeah.
When you're doing the other kind of first two routes, So really, in reality, some of the cleanest, easiest ways for you to be able to track what's going on with your company, how people are using the offers, is to have something set up in your system by either using a POS that has it or using a system like CityGrow that can actually track that for you, because it makes it clean, clear, and your employees trained the right way. It's simple for them to do it. It's not extra real work for them, and they can do that and make sure that you're getting the information you need.
Yeah, and then like you said, the worst case scenario, at least have a paper and pencil handy that you can mark how many people came down with that promotion specifically. And be careful if you're doing like 5 promotions all at the same time, or you've got coupons everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to have a coupon code that ties it to that campaign. Or something like that. So as best you can, tie it to a campaign.
Or have a system that can track all your offers.
Or have a system.
I mean,
yeah,
that's also an easy way.
That's an option. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happens if I'm not having a successful campaign.
Sure. Finally,
I start tracking it, and I realize, man, this isn't as good as I thought it might have been.
Right. So your first reaction is is like, oh, what a waste of money, kind of a thing. But really, the reality should be is if you feel like you're not getting the success, or you can see that you're not getting the success, you just need to evaluate some things. First off, with the idea in mind that everything is a learning experience. Marketing is all about how you adapt to what you learn. And so the most effective big companies that make money and grow and all those things, they are constantly learning. And so that's part of this whole thing is there's a tuition cost to this knowledge. And so one of the ways that if you see this happening is you need to recognize, okay, so something wasn't working. Let's try a different approach. So that's kind of what the first mentality needs to be in this kind of whole process. Yeah. The other thing to recognize is that the correct expectation of what success is when you're looking at, oh, this wasn't successful. For instance, some very large companies, they expect a 10% ROI for their investments. So what that means is when a company like Coca-Cola spends $1 in their marketing, they expect, or they're getting $1.10 back. Yeah. So really, they got 10 cents on the dollar that they spent.
Which doesn't seem like a lot until you start spending a lot of dollars.
Exactly.
10%.
And so one of the challenges that we can face is, we want to be careful with our spending. We want to be savvy and smart in how much we're spending and not spend too much. But the realization is that we can't spend $25 on marketing and expect hundreds of dollars back. That's not
unless you get a really good campaign.
Unless you get really good. Yeah, but it has happened.
But it is in perspective of in marketing dollars, kind of what goes out.
Absolutely. And it can't be an expectation, that's how you that's success. No, that's an awesome campaign. If you got that, that's great, and it's done. People do it. But that shouldn't be the expectation of all of your campaigns.
If that is happening, put more money into your advertising.
If that's happening, please talk to me. I love learning how people are being successful because that's how we learn. We adapt.
Well, so let me ask you this then. Let's say I spend $50 on a text campaign, and I assume I get $50 back. It's a wash. Is that a failed campaign?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Why?
One of the nice things is, honestly, if you can break even on an offer, on a campaign, you've gained valuable knowledge. In fact, the great thing is you can look at it and say, I gain knowledge for free. If you come out even, you learned more about your customers, about how people perceive your company, and also how you perceive your customers. And so even if you come out even, you've just gained knowledge, in essence, for free.
What I think a lot of people love about text marketing is that A/B testing model, where if I want to A/B test a billboard, it's an expensive A/B test. I pay several thousand to get it up there, probably commit for 6 to 12 months, and it's there. The nice thing, and the way I like to really look at text marketing is, let's say I have $100 that I'm willing to test with. Yeah. I could take 4 sets of 1,000 if I'm paying 2.5 cents a message. Right. And I can say, okay, I'm going to test this message 4 times. Chances are with text messaging, you at least break even, because of 1,000 people that go out, most businesses usually need is a few people come in to make it worth it, right? Exactly. So there is a really good chance that you spend that $25 and you get that $250 back. Yeah. But that's the nice thing you look at it is, I make small tweaks. I'm going to try 4 messages, A, B, C, and D. Maybe I have 1 fail, 2 of them break even, and 1 kill it. But that I like what you said, the cost of tuition. It's just there is a cost of just learning what works, and once you figure it out, now instead of doing $25, I'll put $250 into that.
Sure.
As long as I keep getting the same results.
And that's a large part of this whole challenge about marketing is getting trust in your method, in the process. Yeah. And honestly, the great thing is as you A/B test and practice, and you do test to look for results, and you start seeing what's working, you can confidently put more and more marketing money into that and see more and more returns. And so that's what it's all about. Honestly, if you're not constantly evaluating how your campaigns are doing and looking at what's working, what's not, and changing them, you're leaving money on the table.
Right.
Because, like I said, big companies are successful because they learn to adapt.
They start small, and then once they find that success point, now they're taking it and saying, hey, it worked in text marketing.
Sure.
Maybe it'll work on my email campaigns. Maybe it'll work on my posters or my mailers, and then maybe on that billboard or something like that. Awesome. So long story short, test.
Yeah.
And see what it comes from it. Cool. Well, I think we covered a lot of grounds here. Is there anything on your mind that you don't think we covered with regards to success of a campaign?
Sure. Well, the one thing I just kind of want to say, I guess, is when you're evaluating the success of your campaign, whether it was successful or non-successful, really there's two things. If it's an offer campaign where you're actually offering your customer something, evaluate two things. Does it financially make sense for you? Is it a savvy business move, to be able to actually afford it, all those kind of things? And is it an attractive offer for your customers? Because sometimes we give away too much. That happens. We sometimes offer too much, and people are using it because it's a steal, and we're really kind of losing money and stuff like that. Yeah. But more often than not, we don't connect with our customers and make it relevant to them. So it has to be: is it attractive to our customers, and does it make financial sense to me?
So you brought up a good point that reminded me of the term LTV, lifetime value of a customer, right? Mm-hmm. Which is important to keep in mind, because let's say that you run a campaign and the whole goal is to get new customers in. Right. Maybe you send a message to your text and email list that says, hey, bring someone new that's never eaten here before, and you'll get buy one, get one free. Sure. And you determine that, hey, buy one, get one free is really like barely breaking even for me. Like maybe I make a little bit more for it. When considering the lifetime value of that customer, you might have broken even on them the first time, but then you have a customer that's coming back and back and back, and especially if you got them into your data system, it just adds upon itself.
Oh, definitely. And every business owner needs to evaluate what financially makes sense to them. It's not just a clear cut, I didn't make a whole bunch of money on this campaign, or I broke even, or even I lost some. It's what was my objective of that campaign, and what are my metrics for that campaign, and then you track those metrics. And those are the things that will help you to get there. Because, for instance, if you did a buy one, get one free, if you brought a friend in, maybe that isn't a super financially great thing for you to give away give away so much. But at the same time, if you're tracking the metrics of new customers and you put a value on those new customers, you're like,
that friend might spend hundreds of dollars over the next year.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a financially savvy decision for you. Yeah. So every customer just needs to be aware of kind of what their metrics are, what they want to achieve with their campaigns, and then obviously again track it, because that's going to tell you if it's successful or not.
Awesome. Okay, so I've got a question coming in from Mark that I want you to speak to. On average, how long should I run a campaign before I know it's successful or not? Can I run it one day or 1 month? How long?
That is a fantastic question. Honestly, one, it depends on the campaign. Because if you run a one-time, a campaign, it's just like a one-day offer, like, hey, a flash sale kind of a thing, like come in this day, you're going to be able to do this. I mean, that's one type of campaign, but in reality, you're going to see success depending on you look at your campaign of when did you send it, who are you sending it to, and by what time is a reasonable expectation that offer should have been used, or that a customer should have returned, or whatever it is your metric is. Mm-hmm. And so once you got to evaluate that to decide how long it is a reasonable amount of time to start seeing success from a campaign. Yeah. For instance, if you're sending out an awareness campaign, like, hey, we have some new ice cream flavors in our store, you're not going to have a huge upfront change. You usually see little growth in that beginning part, but it has it can grow later on. Yeah. And so it's one of those things where you have to be aware of what your timelines are, of what you expect.
So would you say that timelines aren't probably as important as how many people you get it tested on? Because if I do a one day and I send out today, I can send that to a mass group of people.
Sure.
If I did like a birthday campaign, I have to wait for enough people to have birthdays to know if it matters, right?
I like how you brought that up. One thing you can test before you, you can test the offers themselves before you run them in campaigns. Because like a birthday offer, for instance, it's a pretty easy. Sometimes you're like, oh, on your birthday, get a free bowl of ice cream. That's usually pretty effective. Most people, straight, flat, free kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But other kind of offers, like a buy one, get one free, buy one, bring a friend in. All those different things, you can run a test and say, you know what, this week, I'm going to test with this many people. Let's see how many people come in, how many people are brought in, all that kind of things. And there you go. All of a sudden, now you know you have a viable offer, and you can attach that offer in other campaigns that can be more long-term. Yeah. But you can test it in the short term and be able to actually see it in the long term.
And change it. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I guess, I think that answers Mark's question. I think basically amount of people doing it is probably bigger than time ran, and that's different based on time. It did bring up some interesting ideas, though. Like, there's so many different ways to test campaigns, because we talked about redemptions and what to do with the cash register, but you can even test with stats that just come in the email or text. Like if you put a link that says see more here, and a link, you can actually track how many people are clicking the link. So out of 1,000 people it went out to, if no one clicked the link, then it doesn't even matter that they didn't get to the store.
Right.
They didn't click the link for more information in the first place. Or in an email, you could maybe put 3 offers and have more details on the bottom of each one and see which one got clicked on the most. So you have an indication of which 3. So you kind of have to just think of, okay, what can I track, and go wild with testing.
Right.
Fair enough. Cool. All right, I think that covers most of the points I wanted to get to. Do you feel unfulfilled in any area of campaign testing?
No. I think we've talked about a lot of good things, and honestly, the real story of the whole thing is it's a learning experience. Learn, adapt, and let's make money.
What's been your favorite campaign that you've seen lately, off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, actually, one of my favorite campaigns I've seen recently is people have been doing some bounce back campaign stuff. So people, when they sign up for the first time, they come in their very first time, and then we have a delayed message that goes out the next day and offers them something to come back within like a week or two. And I've actually been seeing that working with some of our new customers as we've been doing this, and people are being able to see that people respond to offers quite rapidly. Like you don't have to wait months before these people have never been into your company or something like that, but like you can actually test these offers right away.
Same week.
Same week.
Couple weeks. Yeah, that's fun. I always like this time of season with taxes, because we get some really interesting promotions of how to use your tax return and stuff like that. Well, thank you so much, Channing. It was fun. I'm glad you got to be here with us. Again, we're live here at City Grow. We hope to see you next time.